Towards the end of 1944, with the advance of the Russian army, the Germans, in common with their practice at other death camps, attempted to destroy all evidence of what had taken place at Auschwitz. Surviving prisoners began to be transported to concentration camps inside Germany.
David, you asked me how many times did my mother save my life?
Yes.
Well, I will tell you when she really saved my life. And that was, she was working over there in the hospital block, as you know, and I was working in a crematoria.
Yes.
Now, one day, well, she was waiting for days and days and days to try and catch the camp commandant, and the camp commandant was Hessler at that time. There was Hess, there was Kramer, but that was Hessler.
Yeah.
And she waited, and she made a decision. She was going to speak to Hessler herself. Now, this was the greatest feat that you could imagine of heroism for an ordinary prisoner to be able to get near an SS commandant. Now, she waited apparently for days. Now, I didn't know all this because I was working in the crematoria. And somewhere here, he came along, and she ran out from one of these huts here. She must have been hiding at the back of this last block. And she saw him. And of course, he wasn't on his own. He was surrounded, and there were no by the ruling prisoners, and you couldn't get near. You had to speak via the ruling prisoners. Anyway, she apparently came up here, and she said, "Prisoner number 39934 begs to speak to the camp commandant." And he apparently just, you know, he was a bit surprised. An ordinary prisoner has come to address him. No.
Yeah.
And he said yes. And she then said, "My daughter has been working at the crematoria for 8 months. And now their transport's leaving, and I would like her to come and join me on the transport." Well, he didn't say yes or no. He just said, "Give me her number." And she said, 39934, dismissed. And that was it. And I never heard any, I didn't know this, you see. But this saved my life. He saved my life. And how he saved my life, I will tell you. Because I worked in the crematoria, and there was this enormous uprising, and I was there when the crematoria were being blown up. And we were all implicated in this. I mean, we were responsible to some extent for the blowing up of the crematoria. Yeah. And there was an enormous inquiry. And during roll call, one of the SS women came in and called 39934. And of course I thought, right, now I'm going to be killed. Because I knew I was implicated. I had a lot of gold and jewelry. It was all hidden and buried. And somebody must have seen it. So I said, oh, bye. You know, everybody knew I was going to die. But instead, she said to me, "You're going to B2. B1, sorry, B1.
Your life.
So the camp commandant saved my life.
Why do you
because
think he did that?
I don't know. He just sent a message, "Get prisoner 39934 to come back here." I don't know. It's the way my mother spoke this perfect German.
The Germans admired heroism.
They admired heroism, and they admired the fact that she spoke the most perfect German, and she came in the most civilized way. And she didn't beg. She simply said it straight out. She didn't crawl. She was very determined. She said we'd been here almost 2 years, and he was impressed by this, that somebody, especially an old lady like her, old, well enough
55.
for 50s, yeah, could have lived here so long. He was impressed, I think. Yeah. And so my number was called out, and I have not met anyone from this particular Canada commander that is alive, because I think following this inquiry, they were all gassed. And so I think I'm the only one of this particular Canada commander that is alive today.
The freight trucks and cattle wagons that had brought so many men, women and children to the gas chambers now began to take surviving prisoners away from Auschwitz. But leaving Auschwitz didn't bring an end to their suffering. They were shunted from one overcrowded camp to another. When there were no trains, they were forced to march over hundreds of miles in conditions of deprivation and brutality worse than anything they had experienced in Auschwitz. Kitty left Auschwitz in a freight truck on November the 11th, 1944. It was 1 month before her 18th birthday. Of the 100 women who were transported with her, only 12 were alive by the time liberation came in April 1945. Amongst those 12 were Kitty and her mother.